Is your nonprofit suffering from an identity crisis? This is one of the more common problems that I see when I've moved from the for-profit world into some of the nonprofit world. One of my favorite business books is Good to Great by Jim Collins. You may have read that. A lot of people did. But did you know that Jim Collins actually wrote a great little monograph to accompany Good to Great for the social sectors? And this is when I learned of this great identity crisis. One of the symptoms of this is seeing inputs and outputs as a nonprofit, a social sector, as the same way that a for-profit organization would do. So a for-profit, the money they receive through revenue is both an input and an output. But for the social sectors, it's only an input. And this is really critical. The identity crisis can lead you to be confused on this and cause lots of problems for your organization. Here's a key question to ask if you're primarily in the nonprofit social sector realm or if you're the for-profit. If you look at your revenue, if more than 50% of the revenue comes from someone giving you money and receiving no direct product or service, you are a social sector organization. And the quicker you realize that and learn that, the better off you'll be. I want to give you two examples from this monograph that I recommend you get after you read the book Good to Great that will hopefully help you understand this input-output issue. Prior to Police Commissioner Bratton taking over the NYPD assessed itself primarily on input variables, such as arrests made, reports taken, cases closed, budgets met. Does that sound familiar? Rather than the output variable of reduced crime, which is the whole point of the organization. I see this happening all the time with nonprofits, is that they have all these measurements and they're the wrong measurement. The output has to be, if you're a not-for-profit social sector, the primary purpose and mission that your organization is trying to achieve. Now, some organizations have a real challenge with how do you measure the output? How do you specifically measure crimes reduced? Bratton had a very specific answer for this with what he called CompStat, short for computer comparison statistics. And they would measure everybody based on the statistic that they developed for how you could see crime reducing. Some organizations don't have even that output that you can look for. For instance, the Cleveland Orchestra. So how do you measure output other than revenue for something like an orchestra? Well, here's a really unique example. Standing ovations. So they measured how many standing ovations did they get per season. And they had a specific requirement for what that looked like. And that's how they measured everything. Whatever your organization is aiming to do, you cannot have an identity crisis. It is your duty, your responsibility, just like it's the responsibility of a for-profit organization to look at the bottom line, to make sure that they are making a profit and all the shareholders are getting the right kinds of dividends and they have a responsibility. You have a responsibility as a nonprofit to actually accomplish the social aims that you are trying to accomplish. And that comes first and foremost by not having an identity crisis and not confusing inputs and outputs.